Guys, the Mavs season is indeed over, ending in 5 games. The gentleman's sweep from a ridiculous Celtics team. Just to start things off, your top-down view of what we saw from the Mavs in this postseason and in that finals run. Sean, I'll come to you first. What is your biggest takeaway from the Mavs playoff run?
Well, Luka took it to the next level and got his team to a finals for the first time. I think that's the biggest takeaway. And golly, the run, if you just look back at the trade deadline, this team was fighting in the play-in, and then they galvanize, get better with their new starting lineup. And, you know, sometimes you just run into history. The Boston Celtics went 16-3 in the postseason. Out of 101 games this year, they won 80 of them. And, you know, sometimes the better team wins, and at least the Mavericks had one moment in front of their home crowd in Game 4 with a blowout win. So the future is bright, and the arrow is still pointing up for the Mavericks.
How about for you, Michelle?
Yeah, a lot of what Sean just touched on. I mean, Boston was supposed to win, and they did. I think one of the biggest things that we can take away for the Mavericks is that you have this young core of guys who are okay with being role players. Obviously, Kyrie and Luka are going to do their thing. Kyrie obviously wasn't anything close to what we expected him to be in that series against Boston, but throughout the other 3 series, he looked pretty good. So you think about the fact that they have kind of put this team together around those two, and they're okay with being not the guy. You don't always get that in the NBA. I think those are some things that we can really take from this series and really just the postseason overall and move forward with.
I think I'm going to be the villain of this segment here and say this almost feels like a missed opportunity in some circumstances. Now, I realize the run that they went on was improbable and all that, but they also had the best record in the NBA after the trade deadline. This team was built to make this run and face the talent that they did. The difference is we always like to look forward and think, hey, they're going to get back there. They're going to have another shot at this. Dirk only had 2 cracks at this. He only had 06 and 11, and the West was tough that entire time. Nobody in the West is going anywhere, and now the teams have a chance to use the offseason to build their teams around what Dallas threw at them. My question is, how do the Mavs not only get better, but kind of anticipate heading into this season with expectations in a way that they didn't have them last year?
So 2 things, and there's going to be a subset of Dallas that hates this comment, but I'm sorry, it's true. Dirk is not Luka.
I agree.
He's not. I'm sorry. Luka's in a different stratosphere. Dirk was awesome. Dirk is a all-time great. Luka has, at the very least, potential to be a complete level up from what Dirk Nowitzki's career was here in Dallas. And I think for that reason, you do have a team that should expect to be back at this stage, even if it's not next season. This should become the norm for this franchise to make deep playoff runs, to be a regular threat, to get to the NBA Finals and win championships if Luka Doncic is your figurehead that leads this whole thing. Yes, they need to get better. Clearly, this team wasn't good enough to win a championship. I think they did run into a almost historically good Celtics team that kind of feels, to me, the comp is the 2014 Spurs team that moved the ball so well and shot the 3 so well. It feels like there's similarities.
It might be a little overstating. I viewed them a little bit more along the Pistons side of things, at least the 04 Pistons. And we don't know necessarily how this is going to shake out long term, whether they're going to win a couple more and establish themselves as that kind of team in the early 2010s. Sean, I'm curious from the core perspective, because obviously a bunch of new faces got influxed earlier in this year. It's different coming in and changing the vibe, but now you are the vibe. What do you think about this core moving forward?
I think the core is great. You already have your backcourt set, at least for the duration of Kyrie's contract, and you have figured out your big situation. Now it's just adding little pieces around the edge, and Nico Harrison, to his credit, has done a great job of that. Obviously, maybe shedding the Tim Hardaway Jr. money to, I don't know, maybe give Derrick Jones Jr. the mid-level this summer and maybe go get another 3-and-D guy. I'm not quite sure how that's going to shake out, but as far as the core of this team, having this playoff run is great. Having an experience to go all the way to the finals and feel that pressure on the national stage will only help down the road. And to go back to your point about Boston, people got to remember Boston has played in the conference finals in the East 6 out of the last 8 years. They finally got over the hump this year, and I feel like the Mavericks could be in that position. The problem is the West is very deep, and you've already seen an Oklahoma City team who the Mavericks beat in the second round. They've already gone out and made a trade to try to look a little bit more like Boston, getting another perimeter defender and spot-up shooter in Caruso.
Michelle, get back in here. You got the final word.
Speaking of the Thunder, guys, I mean, yeah, they're going to be a formidable team going forward. And you mentioned it earlier, the West is not getting any easier, but I think that the Mavericks are going to get better. I know this was cliche coming out of Nico Harrison in his wrap-up press conference saying everyone's going to come back 10 to 15% better. But when you have a postseason that was as challenging and as long as this was for the Mavs, they're going to take things from that. Good, bad, a lot more bad, especially there towards the end. But they're going to use that experience. They're going to come back better. And like you said, they're pretty much locked in on 7 to 8 guys. That's your starting 5. That's 2 guys off your bench. I think this is a group that they can really learn with, gain experience with, and hopefully win a championship with.
Goal number 1 for this crew is get Luka a home playoff series. Every single playoff series he's played has been on the road. If they can start at home in the AAC, we'll see how things really shake out.